Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. Today is day 3 in my alcohol ink series. For the first background that I created, I taped my Yupo paper to my board because I wanted to really work with letting the ink drip down the paper. And you'll notice that I'm wearing gloves today. I went to the store and bought a pack of disposable gloves so that I wouldn't have any trouble with the ink getting on my hands anymore. This is the tin that I keep my alcohol inks in. I just wanted to show you how I store them. And I do have my craft mat down on my work surface to protect it. So what I did here was I held my board at an angle and then I just put the inks at the very top and let them drip down the paper. So I started out by just using my 3 colors of alcohol ink, and then I came in with my blending solution and let that drip down. And that's really when the magic started happening. I really think that this is my favorite technique so far. I really love the way that the ink looks when it's dripped this way. I kept adding more ink and more blending solution, just trying to fill up the white on the page a little bit more. Oh my gosh, I see the UPS truck outside. Yay, my package arrived. I was really worried that it wasn't going to arrive on time. Of course, it's crafting materials, and it's crafting materials that I need to do Friday's video. And I was really worried about what I was going to do if they were late. If they arrived tomorrow, I would have had to film and edit the video tomorrow. And that would have been hard. I like to film it at least 2 days in advance, so then I can edit it 1 day in advance. Anyways, back to the video. Sorry, got distracted. So I kept adding blending solution ink to this and letting it drip, and then I also flipped it to the opposite side so that it would drip the opposite way every now and then. And then once I was happy with it, I came in and did little, very, very, very tiny splatters of the alcohol blending solution to give it some texture. And I really love the way that this one turned out. It kind of reminds me of marble. And it was really easy to make. Like, I think it was easier than any of the backgrounds I've made before. All you have to do is pick colors that go together and then just let them drip. For the next background, I did have some fails. I decided to try out the technique where you smoosh the paper onto the ink, which you place on the craft mat. One of the problems I think I had was I put too much of that indigo color, and it really was overpowering. Like, you can see the paper is like almost completely that indigo color. It really took over the whole thing. Another issue I think I had is I think that I should have started with blending solution on my mat and then added some of the color and I should have added less color to start with. All I know is that I failed at ink smooshing this go around. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head over to Michael's tonight and buy some more Yupo paper because I'm almost out, and then I'll play with ink smooshing more to see if I can get the technique down so that I can do a proper video on ink smooshing. So obviously I scrapped the ink smooshing technique for this background. Instead, I decided to play around with paintbrushes and see what kind of textures I could get. So I used this large paintbrush to go across the paper in these horizontal strokes. And this is just a really cheap paintbrush that I got at like Walmart. So I don't know if you saw what I did at first, but I went across this with just blending solution a few times to kind of lighten it up because there was so much of that indigo ink on there. And now I'm adding in some of that green ink. And then I'm going to call this background done. I really liked the way that it looked. It was very different from any of the other backgrounds that I've done. I loved the texture that the paintbrush created on it. I left this part in the video because I wanted to show you how I clean up my craft mat. So I take a baby wipe and I pour some alcohol on it. Now in this case I actually used the alcohol blending solution because I'm out of alcohol, but I would prefer to use just alcohol because it's cheaper. So what I would actually use is probably 91% isopropyl alcohol. The blending solution works just as well, as you can see, but like I said, the isopropyl alcohol is much cheaper, so I would use that to clean your craft mat. So here's a little bit of a look at how these two backgrounds turned out once they were completely dry. This blue and green one really made me think of the ocean. I'm only going to be doing one card with this background, so I trimmed it down to my card base size. And this is an A2 size card, so this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I just used my ATG gun to adhere that to the card base. I cut out this little panel of white cardstock, which I'm going to be stamping my sentiment on. All of the stamps that I used on this card come from the My Favorite Things Mermazing stamp set. So this sentiment says, "Sending you oceans of love," and I stamped that using 2 different colors of Distress Oxide ink. I used Cracked Pistachio and Salty Ocean. I then took all the different seashells that are in the stamp set, and I went around the sentiment with Versamark ink and stamped those shells. Sadly, you can't really see that stamping in the video because it's just a watermark. I didn't go over it with embossing powder, I just left it as a watermark. So it's really subtle, but you can see it in real life and it looks really nice. I popped this panel up in the corner and then this card was all done. It's a very simple design, but I tend to prefer simple designs. For this background, I'm going to be cutting it and I'm going to be making 2 cards from it. So I taped down the first panel to the card base, and this panel actually ended up being a little bit bigger than my card base, so I had to trim the side a little bit. So I just used my scissors and I trimmed that edge right off. It's not in the video, but I popped up that white panel of paper using some foam tape, and then I die cut this hello sentiment using some black paper and glued it onto the white panel. I then went over that die cut sentiment with both Wink of Stella and glossy accents. And that's going to finish up this first card. For the second card, I took the second panel that I cut out of my alcohol ink background and I glued it onto another card base. After that, I'm going to take another panel of white paper and pop it up with foam tape. I know I've been using this similar white panel popped up design for each one of my cards, but that's because I find this design really helps to feature a background, and that's really what I want to do for these alcohol ink backgrounds. For this card, I die cut a sentiment that says thanks out of some black cardstock, and I'm gluing that on using my Tombow glue, and then I'm going to go over it with Wink of Stella and glossy accents. The glossy accents gives these sentiments some nice dimension. And then after I put the glossy accents on, this card is going to be all done. And that finishes up all the cards from these 2 backgrounds. Thank you for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this 3rd video of my alcohol ink series. I'm going to be back tomorrow with day 4 in the series. All of the supplies that I used in this video can be found in the description down below. If you enjoyed watching, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope that you really enjoy the rest of your day.